What's good, y'all? J Boogie in full effect mode. Bun down is the sound. You know how we do. This is, of course, The Lounge Presents. We're live streaming on Twitch. And, of course, the episode will be available on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Today, we are doing episode number 150. I literally did not think it was going to go this far. But what better way to commemorate 150 episodes of this podcast than this gentleman right here? The one and only, the alleged legend himself, Birdapres.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yo, thank you, man.
And congratulations on your 150th episode.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, no, legit. There was no plan for it to go this far.
It's a milestone.
It was literally just for pandemic, because, as you know, it was just for pandemic, just so that we can all, talk to other humans and feel somewhat normal.
Yeah, stay connected with people. And you just kept doing it.
Just kept doing it because I was like, well, why not keep doing it? And now here we are. I'm so glad we were able to get you in at 150. It took a little bit of like juggling of other talents to make sure we got you on the 151.
Scheduling, a little bit of scheduling.
Yeah, you know how that works, man. It's a pleasure to have you on. Obviously, we know each other very well, and I think the best place to start is obviously where we always start on the Lounge Presents, and it's to ask you how you were first introduced to hip hop culture.
Wow, that's taken me back. I started out. I'm trying to think of my introduction. Would have been through breaking, and one thing I remember. I was recently reminded of was when I was young in school. I remember somebody rhyming the Christmas rap from Beat Street
nice.
in the schoolyard, and I hadn't seen the movie, and I didn't realize like where it was from. But I was like, oh, what's going on here? This is different, and that would have been probably the beginning for me. Was those two things. And a lot of I grew up in Vancouver, which is on the West Coast, so there was a lot of freak beat electro kind of music too, mixing in with hip hop at the time, so probably 83, 84. And a couple years later, I think the big turning point for me was LL Cool J's Bigger and Deffer. Was right. Like, and Run DMC, of course, but that was one thing I really remember.
Do you know which of those records you actually purchased first?
A lot of it was dubs.
Of course.
It was dub tape. So I'm trying to think of like the first hip hop record I bought, vinyl. I don't think I bought a hip hop record until probably the second Tribe album.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't actually get. I had records, but I didn't have hip hop records. I had hip hop tapes. So like Boogie Down Productions, things like that on cassette.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next question then, because I knew you had cassettes. So what was the first hip hop cassette you got?
The first hip hop dub or reel, like a purchase one would have been Boogie Down Productions, Ghetto Music.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But dubs way before that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Going back to like I remember Two Live Crew and having Lottie Dottie on tape.
Right.
Different things, but I didn't. It was like actually buying stuff. Like there was a real gap for me because I started buying records. I remember getting Purple Rain on vinyl, and then there was a real gap till I started buying actual hip hop records because I was mostly buying cassettes.
Right.
Yeah.
Dope. Love it. Love it. I'm just going to rewind a little bit, and we're going to touch a little bit on the breaking.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of the crew?
I wasn't I wasn't in a crew. I just
Okay.
remember we got together. The breaking crew in Vancouver was the Super Saco Breakers.
Okay.
And I remember seeing them, and of course seeing the Dynamic Rockers and the New York City
Yeah.
Breakers and Rocksteady crew on TV. And I remember
Yeah.
seeing the other thing was the Herbie Hancock with DST at the
Yes.
time. Those were all
Yes.
pivotal for me. So I was all very
Yes.
aware of them. I didn't really, I was pretty young. I wouldn't say I knew exactly what was going on, but I
Hmm.
remember, it was like, oh, this is very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What like? How were you introduced to the breaking originally? Was it seeing them
In the
live?
schoolyard, in the
Okay.
schoolyard.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice. Nice.
kids
Nice.
doing
Nice.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would have been the start. And then I started seeing it on TV and in movies. But it was very same with the rapping. Somebody was rapping lyrics at school, probably the first time I heard it.
Okay. Okay. What were you growing up listening to around the home?
Oh man, my dad was really into Pink Floyd.
Okay.
My mom loved Joni Mitchell, Aretha
Okay.
Franklin.
Nice.
Uh, my mom was into folk music. She was on the board for the Vancouver Folk Fest at the
Okay.
time. So I went and saw,
Okay.
like, I saw music from all over the world from the time
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
a kid. Um, and I grew up in East Vancouver. There were like off Commercial Drive, and there was a lot of different sort of international influences in music
Hmm.
around too.
Like it was a bit of an artsy scene, right?
Yeah, for sure. And there was
Yeah.
like, reggae and post
Yes.
punk stuff and uh trying to think, there was like South American musicians and all sorts of stuff around, I can remember.
Dope. Dope. One thing that I don't think I've ever asked you, and I was actually looking forward to asking you because it's a question that has come to resonate incredibly with everyone that we've had on the pod, is what was it about the culture that drew you in?
It felt like something, like, for me, it was a real community thing, and like it was something that, like, a lot of people I knew were getting gravitating towards, and
Right.
really, when I first was exposed to it in a smaller way. But although the breaking thing was a total frenzy, but it kind of started to die off around 86, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Like, for a lot of people, not that it went anywhere, and it definitely
Right.
continues to this day. But we're all kids. We're captivated by the next thing, and it's like, oh, now
Yeah.
I'm into Transformers or whatever,
Hey,
wrestling, like
Transformers
all
Gen
these
One.
things.
Say what?
Yeah, exactly. And but after that, I think when like I said, when LL Cool J came out, me and my friends would just listen to these tapes, and it seemed like a real. He was an artist to me that it felt like it was possible. Like, he seemed like a really young guy, and it
Oh
was
yeah,
like, oh yeah,
he
he's
was.
younger than these other rappers. Like, you could be young
Yeah.
and rap. So I remember that being a big thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, after having discovered hip hop and then the culture surrounding hip hop and seeing the different elements, what was it that sparked in you that something that made you say, you know what, I think I want to start writing some bars. I think I'd like to pick up a mic.
Well, I didn't. It took me years to get near a microphone, but I started writing early, and I started writing for people, for other people. I was like, you say
Okay.
these words, you say this
Yeah,
rhyme,
yeah, yeah.
you know, and that was the beginning. And I remember we started having, like, I think, maybe in the early 90s, 91 or so, I started rhyming in ciphers and publicly. But before that, it was all just at home, and I was very slow to you know rock out in the world. I was like, I'll write for you. I wrote you a verse, you say it.
Mr.
And
Ghostwriter over here.
exactly. And that went on for probably 87, 88. I was like, here's some lyrics, like say them or whatever. You say them, and of course it didn't develop into anything. I wasn't writing for anyone who was particularly out there, just my friends. But I was like,
Yeah.
oh, when you say this rap at the party, people will like it. Um, and then yeah, probably 91, 92, I started, it's like, oh, we're at a SkyTrain station or something, and a bunch of us are rhyming, and I'd jump in and rhyme. And then by about 93, I'd say I was, you know, at open mics and getting on stage and stuff.
Right. How did the association with moves come about?
Oh, that was way later. Do you want to skip ahead or do you want to get to that?
No, no, we'll trail back.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, no, we'll
I
trail
met
back.
Brian. I met Moves through there's a guy named Tom Quinlan. He had
Yes, Han
full
Solo.
hand solo records in Toronto, and he had interviewed me, and I was looking for a change. I was living in Vancouver at the time, and he was like, "Oh, I'm looking for a roommate," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm looking for a place to live," so I moved to Toronto, uh, and just wanted to change of pace, and so that connection, he introduced me to Fritz the Cat, who had
Hey,
In
ooh, haven't
Divine
heard that
Style.
name in
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. In Search of Divine Styler magazine,
Yep.
and he introduced me to Mark from the band Len, who
Okay.
did Steal My Sunshine,
Yeah.
and I met Derek from Hip Club Groove and Mark, who were working together on stuff at the time, and then basically through associations with them, I met Moves.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out Cryptic Souls crew, obviously.
100%. Oh yeah, and Planet P and
Yep.
Obi and everybody with Cryptic was also a big part of
Salute.
that. Yeah, 100%.
Dope, dope. Going back to the West Coast before Toronto. What year did you drop your first record?
So I dropped my first record with my crew, which was RTA, which stood for Running the Asylum, in 1996, and that was
Okay.
vinyl. But I recently found a copy of. We were part of a bigger umbrella crew called the Q Continuum,
Okay.
uh, which was started by Prevail from Swollen Members
Okay.
and
Okay.
a guy named Zen 26. And I found the cassette recently, and
Oh snap.
yeah, and I ripped it to digital. I'm just messing with it. There was a couple places where it didn't sound so good, so I might have to find another copy and get the song. But I did get my first song, which was 1995. First time I was in a proper recording studio.
Who
Uh,
produced for you? Who produced for you?
that track was produced by Sichuan, who
Oh,
was
nice,
yeah, from
nice.
Vancouver, but a lot of it was done by that project would have been the rest of it. A lot of the rest of it was done by a guy named Che Imperial.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, familiar with the name, definitely.
yeah, and then my DJ RKV was involved as well in those records. He did the scratching.
Okay, okay. See, the one thing about you that it was evident even from back then is I think it's honestly safe to say, Burr, that you are a hip hop renaissance man because you've had a hand and you've had the opportunity to show out in different markets.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
are literally a hip hop renaissance man because you have made a mark in how many markets?
yeah. I popped up all over. I mean, it's true. I
For
did.
real.
Yeah. I popped up all over.
And did you didn't you head further east too?
Not past Toronto for a long
Okay.
time. I've been to Halifax now, but I worked
Yeah,
with a lot of people from Halifax.
exactly.
And I worked with a lot of people from Toronto, a lot of people from Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, etc.
Yes.
But yeah, like I said, originally from East Vancouver.
So
And,
that
and
first,
Victoria. I should also mention Victoria, BC, because that
of
was where
course,
a lot of it gelled in Victoria in the
of
early
course.
90s.
Now, at some point, you knew you were going to take this seriously. You
Yeah.
knew deep down inside, this is it. I'm doing this. once it became apparent that this was going to be, you know, your future vocation, so to speak,
Yeah.
how did the family react to their son embarking on this new phase of rap and hip hop?
They were supportive, maybe a little confused at times, but I would say generally very supportive over the years. And um, yeah, no, it was there. There was moments where it was definitely points of contention or like, what the hell are you doing? But I
Mhm.
think overall, really, especially my mom, rest in peace. She was always a big supporter, and my dad.
Well, I mean, obviously music was already in your family, so
Yeah.
it makes it easy to say, "Oh, okay, you can do that. All right, you got a
Yeah,
plan."
both
Okay.
my parents were visual or art. My dad's a visual artist, so
Oh,
they
geez.
were
Okay.
right. They get it,
Yeah, creatives, of course.
100%.
Makes total sense. Makes
Yeah.
total sense. So, what was the name of your first album that you dropped?
The first, so
Full length.
this is where it gets interesting, because there was a
Okay.
proposed RTA album called,
Okay.
I don't remember the name of it, but we almost finished it, and then it got scrapped when the group sort of dissolved.
Right.
Me and RKV reconvened in '97, and put out a 12-inch single, with 3 songs: "Checking for You," which was produced by a guy named El Precise, a song called "Now" with Mocha Only, which was produced by Stace Prince,
Oh, damn.
and
Look at all these names he's dropping you.
yeah, "The Whereabouts," which was produced by my man Jewel One, and who's from Victoria, really great producer who I'm actually working on stuff with now.
Nice.
Um, and we did a bunch of other material. And then when the 12-inch came out, I was like, oh, this is going to be a proper album. That was the intention, but it didn't really gel super,
Mm.
like where we got a distributor or something. So I ended up just putting it out on cassette locally, and dubbing tapes. Um, we dub tapes ourselves.
Of
Uh,
course. Yeah.
and the original of that, I Mocha only drew the cover. He
Okay.
and so it's got his sort of artistic flair to it, his style, that a lot of his old cassettes were. And then it featured a bunch of my friends on it, a bunch of producers, um, and a couple. I'm trying to remember MC wise who was on that, because there's a few people on the RTA record, but a little foggy there. So that would have been, sort of officially my first
Nice.
record.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you remember showing it to the family like, "Hey, guess what? Here it is, my first one."
Definitely the 12-inch singles. That was a big
Nice.
deal. And it is, like, to this
Yeah, that's
day,
a
I'm
huge
like,
deal.
we were like, the first one I put out, we were like 20 years old, like
Yeah.
we didn't have like a deal or nothing. Like, we pooled money together.
Yep.
And the second one was much the same process. Like, it was a group effort. Um, and yeah, it's a crazy thing to think about, because I can't imagine being 20 years old and getting a record out
Ah,
now.
for
It seems,
real.
and then another one a year later. That, to me, that's a certain type of achievement.
For sure.
Especially
Definitely.
back then, when things were, especially in Western Canada, there wasn't like
Yes.
a lot of, there wasn't industry support or anything. So you ended up doing things underground and independent
Yep.
out of necessity, right?
Yep. Definitely. Which is still hip hop.
Yeah, and you end up. The thing is, it makes you more that way. I
Yep.
think over
Yep.
time, you're just like, that's how it is.
Do you remember what year you played your first live show? Proper live show? When you
Proper
were
Live Show was
showcasing, yeah, good set.
1994 in Victoria,
Okay.
at a schoolyard, and my friend, at the time, he went by Flo. I think he was known as Mr. Pucka for a long time. He put the show together, and I remember, I still have the flyers somewhere. I keep these
Nice.
kinds of things. Yeah, I have a crazy flyer
No, you
collection.
should, man. You
Yeah,
totally should.
yeah, all sorts of stuff. But anyway, that was my first show, and it was in like a school. It almost felt like a school cafeteria or something. And I remember the crowd was a little. There was a couple people that were a little antagonistic, and I sort of won. I didn't. There's one guy I remember I didn't win over, but I got everyone else, I think. And around that time, I played a show at the New York Theater on Commercial Drive, which is where, I mean, that was like where Nirvana's first show in Vancouver was. It was a pretty
This is a
special,
proper venue, yeah.
yeah, special place, and it was more of a open at the end of somebody else's set. A bunch of us freestyled, and I think, I remember like probably a year or two later, the Alcoholics played there. Like it was like it was a pretty decent
Yeah.
venue. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. So fast forward a little bit. Now what year did you move to Toronto?
First time I've been bouncing back and forth. The first time I moved to Toronto was 97. I stayed here for about 6 months.
Okay.
And then I moved back around 2000, 2001. And I was here for a little over a year. And then I moved back here in 2016, and I've been here since.
Right. And that was after Winnipeg?
Yeah. I did. I spent 10 years living in Winnipeg. Love Winnipeg, of course.
See, that's what I'm talking about, man. You were like, you've literally, I mean, when the history books are written, hell, this is history right here, because long after we're gone, this is still going to be online. So let it be shown that you have been that guy. You've been that guy that's had a hand in so many scenes across Canada. It's when we use the term alleged legend, alleged is very much sarcastic, because I know you're a humble cat, but to not be able to call you legend is blasphemy.
Yeah, I mean, people can call me what they want. Hopefully, it's nice. Hopefully, it's not bad. I thought about it, and people have mentioned it before. It's like a lot of the bridging of those different scenes. I think people had done it later, especially with the internet and stuff. Yeah. It's different now, but like back then, it was not
without the internet.
Yeah, it was not very common to be working with people in all those different places and scenes, and it was very insular. It's like to be like, it's like, oh, we're in the mix, and definitely, the groundwork, especially when I came to Toronto, like Mocha had been out here a couple times, and we were roommates at that point for a bit, and he was like, oh, I'm going to Toronto, and you should talk to this guy when you're out there, and he linked me with Planet P from Cryptic, and I met DJ Sirius and everyone around that time.
When you started working with Moves, what was the catalyst?
We did a song. Led to that? Well, it was through the relationships I discussed earlier.
Right.
And we did a song together in Toronto. I think I was maybe in town for a video or something, and he had this attic sort of 4-track studio.
Hey.
In I want to say it was in Little Italy,
hey.
Like near college. Yeah.
Yo, man.
Back then, very different scene there.
I know, man, but damn, just you saying it brings those great feelings.
Yeah, you could totally remember how college was at that point. It was a lot of fun. And we were in this attic, and I remember he had all his records up there, and this, what they refer to as the Cadillac of 4-tracks. It's like this Akai 4-track. It's just an absolute, dream. It had like a leather or like faux leather pad for your arm when you're using the faders. Like amazing machine. And he had an S950. And one of the things that tripped me out, not to get too into little technical details.
Go there.
I remember he had a Dr. Rhythm drum machine.
Nice. Dr. Rhythm.
But here's the thing. We had a Dr. Rhythm, and there's a whole story behind that. But my friend stole it in 1990. and it somehow ended up in my possession. And I was always like, I don't know about these drum sounds, sort of cheesy.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I go to Moves' house, there's two points on that. When I go to Moves' house, he's using the Dr. Rhythm to trigger the S950, and I'm like,
Okay.
I didn't know you could do that with that. I would have kept it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that was funny. And then my man Jewel One ended up with it. So he had the drum machine for a while too. But Moves had this beat, and it was this song Bird Is that we did. And it was this crazy beat. And I just remember writing the lyrics, and it came together. It was like, boom, it was just done. It was like he added some scratches. It was this finished song. And on the 4-track, and then it was a big stretch of time before we worked on something else. But when we did, it was just like he had moved out to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And when he was in Van, I was he had a place he was living in North Van. And I'd catch the C bus to North Van and go record. And we did the rest of Alleged Legends up there.
Nice. Now, fast forward a little bit, and you spent some time in Winnipeg, obviously.
Yes.
You wouldn't know that it was a decade that you were here. You know that?
I wouldn't know, but it was definitely a decade. It's almost been a decade since I've been in Toronto. So it's an extra, does a number on my brain, because I'm like, that's like 18 years of my life now I haven't lived back home in Vancouver in so long. And I get really homesick. I miss the ocean. I miss the mountains. I'm going back for a bit. So I'm happy.
Okay. Good for you. No, that's good.
Yeah. It's a beautiful place. I mean, I love being everywhere. I'm just into exploring and experiences, but
really?
Yeah, man, you know this. I mean, I love digging for records and all sorts of, food, finding good food spots. But I moved to Winnipeg. It was 10 years. Yeah, it was 10 years out there.
How did your relationship with McEnroe and Penis and Corn come about?
Well, that was interesting, because I met Roddy, I met McEnroe separate from this. Like, I was at Robson and Thurlow in Vancouver, which at the time was sort of like we used to call it popcorn, because it was like the pop-in corner. And it was like where, everybody ended up there. So you'd sort of hang out there and run into your friends or whatever.
Yeah.
And, we're in our early 20s. It's a very different thing. But I remember, for whatever reason that day, it was a strange day, but I think, who the hell was there? Like, Soul from Anticon rolled up, and Kirby Dominant from California just showed up
just randomly.
Randomly, all these people. And we're like, oh, this is weird. And then I met McEnroe, showed up, and I was like, oh, I know about you. And I think I gave him, or maybe I even sold him a tape, but I'm pretty sure I gave him a copy of this album I had called Bird Reynolds. And it was like an underground tape I did in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And he had the tape, and then I guess Moves had been talking to him, or we weren't quite done. We'd sort of started Alleged Legends at this point, and he was telling McEnroe, oh, I want to put this out on a cassette. And McEnroe was like, listen to the album, and really liked it. And he was like, I want to put it out on CD.
Hey.
And so we were like, yeah, for sure. And so that's how that came about. And then from there, he started asking me, maybe even a little before that, but he started asking, he's like, oh, do you want to be on this song? And I had this thing where, and he can attest to this probably more than anybody, but he would call me and be like, you want to be on the song? Here's the beat. I popped the beat in my Walkman and ride the bus over and write the rhyme on the bus to his house or on the SkyTrain and record the song and and like one or two takes or whatever, and it was
Damn.
like, and he was just like, wow, you could do this. This is crazy. And then he just started asking me to be on more and more stuff because I was
Right.
able to do that at the time. I don't know if I could do it now. I should challenge myself, actually.
As if you couldn't. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not quite as, I'm no spring chicken.
Yeah, but that's inherent. That's your
It's true.
artistry,
It's true.
dog.
I think if
That's inherent.
if I practiced, if I did it once or twice, I could probably do it. But that was the thing I did. Like, I remember one of the craziest ones like that was I booked a studio session that, like paying money, recording it was on 2-inch reels, and I had the beat and I wrote the song on my way to the studio, which is just like, that's just like gambling to the nth degree. I'm like, what if I didn't get it done? Yeah. and then you're paying, whatever, hundreds of dollars for the session. And 2-inch tape was like, I don't know what the hell it was, $150 for 20
Yeah,
minutes
it wasn't
something.
like super cheap. Yeah.
No. So it was a funny thing. But yeah, that's how long story long, that's how we got going.
Nice. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit. You leave Winnipeg and you go back to Toronto.
Yeah.
So this time around, you stayed in Toronto a little bit longer. What was the draw?
I had a lot of ideas. One thing I wanted to sell records here because
Good market. Yep.
Yeah,
good market. Yep.
Bigger place, more people,
Yep.
more collectors. I knew
Yep.
a lot of people here, and I was like, so that brought me here. The food definitely brought me here. The thing about Toronto is funny because, it's like, oh my God, it's so expensive. Traffic is so bad, all these things. But then you're always like the food. Because, there's so many options and
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And just, I love Toronto. It's a beautiful place.
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely can relate with you on that. I haven't been back in a serious minute, and things are a lot more expensive now from the last time I was there.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's, and I don't know. Like, the thing is, I've been away from Winnipeg long enough that I'm like, I don't know that it's different. Like, is it? Right? I feel like everything's gone up everywhere, but yeah, you definitely notice it. One thing I really appreciate about here is just the constant inspiration. There's always something going on. And just a lot of my friends ended up here. My good friend Jeff Speck moved out here way before I did.
He's in Toronto now. Okay.
Yeah, he's been out here
for Jeff Speck.
Yeah. And there's my good friend Kevin House, Cipriano, Voluntary in Nature, he's out here. All my, people from Cratery, RC, and Sirius, and then K Wonder. Shout out to K Wonder.
Definitely.
Yeah, man.
No, it makes total sense when you take into account that part of you, the record collector in you, especially. And obviously, I mean, I get the whole foodie thing, but for me, thinking of you, Toronto just made sense.
Yeah, 100%. And the vinyl, that's sort of my other passion. We'll say, it's a big part of my life, and it's a great place to be for that. Some days it doesn't feel like it. Like, you're like, oh man, it's tapped out. All the stores are, they've been hit so hard by people, but every once in a while you're like, oh yeah, this is why you find some crazy record.
Yeah. I hear that. Now you're embarking on a fall tour.
Sure am.
What inspired the fall tour?
Midlife crisis.
Midlife crisis. What is that?
I don't know, man. I was like, it hit me. I was like, you know what? This is what I do. I do this. And in order to do it, you have to go out in the world and do it. I can't just be like a guy sitting at home, with my Ableton or whatever, just recording rhymes and this, that, and the third. I was like, in order for me to stay inspired and be active, I need to be out in the world. And I feel like it's like all the things I played a show here on Friday
Mm-hmm.
with Ghetto Socks and K Wonder DJ'd.
Yeah.
A place called Black Space in Queen West, close to Parkdale, and
Okay.
it's one of those things where until you, because that was the first show I played in 6 years.
Damn.
Yeah, and
6 years. Woo.
yeah, and the last show I played was at Lee's Palace, I think, and pre-pandemic, and then pandemic happened, and after the pandemic, I was like, I don't know about, I've been traveling, but I was like, I don't know about playing a show. I'm not sure what the audience is like. I was kind of curious, and so we did this thing on Friday, and I was really happy with the way it went.
Nice.
But one thing I really noticed is that without that direct feedback from people and the interaction between you and the people you're performing for, you're kind of in a vacuum, know?
I get that.
Yeah. And so I feel like doing that inspired me to do more, and I'd already planned it, but I was like, yeah, I really want to go. I want to go places. I want to play shows. I want to engage with different audiences, and types of people. And, it was, as I said, Ghetto Socks performed, but another rapper showed up, Icon the Mic King.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And just
I haven't heard that name in like.
Yeah. And he freestyled. He just was like, hey, can I get the mic? And freestyled in the beginning, like before the show, and just ripped it. And I was like, man, this guy is crazy. And I knew who he was. I knew his music, but to see him live like that and just off the cuff was real cool. Yeah. And things like that don't happen when you stay in your,
yeah,
in your own little bubble.
For real.
Right?
Very true. I know exactly where you're coming from, because coming out of the pandemic, that bubble that the pandemic was, coming back out and like doing things and playing out felt like natural but weird at the same time.
Yeah, and the time goes by, I think, like a couple years go by without the normal back and forth, and suddenly everything feels a little out of sync, and you're just like, okay, I got to do my best to finesse it. And I think that really now it's really interesting, because it just feels somehow, I don't know how, I can't quite articulate it, but I just feel, I'm like, things are a little different, and I don't know if it's just that. There's a number of factors, the way people interact with music, whether you're DJing or you're putting on a show, or you got a live band. I think the way people interact with music since these leaps and bounds and advances in technology and everything is just really different. And I'm a real analog, Luddite type. Like I love tech stuff to a point, but I'm like, I like when things are, I like being, I would say obtuse on purpose, like just being a little bit ignorant of things,
I get it.
Just to keep it interesting.
Yep. Nah, I know exactly where you're coming from. Trust. I was the slowest to pick up to Serato.
Yeah. Right.
I was the slowest.
The last guy I got it.
No, for real. Like I'd go play out gigs with Oldfield and Quadratic when we were doing the bun down thing.
Yeah,
they're all just bringing their laptops and I'm dragging records.
Yeah. You're like, these are so heavy. No, and trust me, I've moved. I have no idea how many records I've carried in my lifetime. Like at this point, between everything, it's just like it's comedic. Like it's like they're so heavy. I've always said like I'm probably going to die under a pile of records. Like it's. I don't want to tell nobody, but I'm going to say it's mostly in Toronto.
Okay.
I have a couple straggler records in Vancouver, and then in Winnipeg, and then I'm building a special crate in Victoria
Oh,
for this
nice.
project me and my friend are working on, Jewel One, where it's called 12-inch
Okay.
rulers. So I'm building a crate of like my favorite 12 inches for that, and that's a
Okay.
long term sort of, whenever I find something, I'm like, oh yeah, that's got to go in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I like that idea. That's actually a dope idea.
yeah,
Now for the tour, you are you are pressing up some cassettes, yes?
yeah. I'm literally dubbing them myself, and I'll tell you why. Because, and this is no knock to anybody, I don't entirely like modern manufactured tapes.
Okay.
I find them a little clattery. I don't know how else to like
Like sound wise?
like the actual when
Okay.
you hold them and
Like the
shake them.
product?
Yeah, they're like kick,
Okay.
kick, 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 and I'm like, it's iffy. And then a lot of people tell me it's like, oh, I bought this new tape and it's unspooled or snapped or whatever.
Oh, damn.
Uh, I this is just a personal thing. I don't know if that's true. It's anecdotal, as they
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
but part of me just is our product endorsements okay? No,
Yeah. Go to town.
I,
Hey, you can't go wrong with a good Maxell.
I'm,
What?
I'm saying, and so I'm just dubbing up Maxells because I'm like, they're reliable and
Yeah.
I know unopened from the 90s or
Yeah,
whatever.
nah.
It's
You
like
can't go wrong.
that's what I'm working with.
What are you putting on the cassettes?
So two projects I did: the
Right.
toothpaste EP, which I've actually had remastered for vinyl, and I plan on
Nice.
releasing on vinyl, but it might be a little while. And then a record called Catch an L, and they're both. The reason I'm doing them is because they're both self-produced. So I did all the
Okay.
beats. I'm like,
Nice.
this is all me.
Nice.
And then the other thing I'm going to do is add a bunch of extra material to each, so
Sick.
it'd fill the 90 minutes for people. Yeah,
No, that's dope. That's
yeah.
dope. Now, for people that don't have cassettes, will they have an opportunity to hear these digitally?
They're all Catch and L's on streaming.
Okay.
Toothpaste is a little, it sort of got lost in the shuffle, but it
Mm,
might make a return. I think there's a couple songs on YouTube. Um,
okay.
and then when I do the vinyl, it'll be out. But I want to save it for that.
Oh, I totally
Yeah,
get it.
yeah. But
The
sort of you get
physical
an
should
advance
be
tape.
first.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, physical
Yeah,
first and
if
then
you if
digital
you
after.
can, if you can.
Yeah. Is it how much of your actual discography is digital now?
Almost all of it.
Good.
If we're counting YouTube, it's
Okay.
almost all digital.
How can you not count YouTube? YouTube
Yeah,
is
well, that's
easily
the
the
thing.
number one
People
music
rip
app.
it. People rip it. They put it up there. I have
Yeah.
nothing to do with it. I'm
Yep.
gonna put up Hall of Fame, the RTA song, because
Nice.
I don't think very few people have a copy of that. And I'm like,
That's dope.
and it's one of those things where a lot of people, it's like, oh, my first song, I don't really like it or whatever. And I'm like, man, I ripped it. It was like I was in top form at whatever 19, I think, when I recorded it. I was 19
Yeah.
years old. I was like, this sounds great. And
I want to
I
hear
like
that.
the scratching. There's like a cool key scratch in the chorus, and
Okay.
yeah, it's cool. So yeah, I'm gonna put that up probably in the next, hopefully, I don't want to jinx it, but I'll say in the next week I might put it up before
Dope.
I go out. And then my new album, I'm hoping before spring will be out.
You're working on that right now, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's almost done. It's with
Okay.
Alistair Johnson, Catalyst. Yeah, yeah,
Hey. Okay, that I want to hear.
yeah,
That should be an interesting product right
yeah.
there.
It definitely,
You too. Okay.
yeah, very different. Um,
Nice.
and then the 12-inch rulers those are the two that I'm aiming for spring.
Well, for sure, we got to get you and Alistair back in the lounge space to talk about that.
For definitely.
We
And
definitely got to do that because, I mean, the fact that you mentioned that you're doing it with him, okay, this you've already got my curiosity
Yeah.
peaked. You know what I'm
And
saying?
the other thing is I think it's a very different approach for him, and you'll hear it and you
Okay.
can see that. But we we came up with some theoretical framework for the record in terms of production and rhyming and different equipment that he was using, and there's a lot of thoughtfulness that went into it.
Okay. Nah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Most def. Now you are going to be making a stop in Winnipeg
Yep.
this Friday,
Friday.
right? At Into the Music, your old stomping grounds.
Yeah, I used to work there, and I'll be doing an in-store. Excited to do that.
With your discography, how you decide what you're going to do?
Oh, it is hell.
I'm
Uh,
saying.
because what people often want me to play and what I feel like playing are usually two different things.
Of course.
Just for
Of
starters, because
course.
it's not like I
Yep.
have what we'll call a hit or like something that everybody knows this song, but like
Right.
there's songs that people are like feel
Have
partial
gravitated
to.
to.
Oh,
Yeah.
I really like that one, and I'm like, there's not a chance in hell I'm playing that. And so I think it could be a somewhat frustrating experience for my hardcore audience, but
Yeah.
I think they'll appreciate it. I'm playing a few things off the record me and Alistair are working on, so it's like
Nice.
testing new
Yeah.
material like a comedian, and then stuff off Catch an L, off Toothpaste, off Alleged Legends,
Dope.
all sorts of things.
Dope. No, that's sick. And that's Into the Music Friday at what time?
I believe seven.
7 Central.
Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And are you like right out right after the show?
Yeah, I'll probably hang out for a minute. Like staying in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure that out right now
Okay.
because
Because you got other dates still.
I'm playing Saskatoon the next night, so I'm
Yeah.
gone. But I might come into town a little early. I'm not
Okay.
100% sure at this point.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Solid, solid. Well, yo, man, I really, really want to thank you for doing this episode, for doing episode 150. Uh, it was a pleasure to get you on. Pleasure to catch up with you because it's
Yeah,
been a
definitely.
goddamn
It's been a
minute.
minute.
Seriously. And I hope to see you Friday. As far as I know, my ass is gonna be there.
Amazing.
Nothing's because yeah, I want to check you like personally and catch up with you personally because
Of course. And
it's been a
we've done our share of digging together too.
yes, man.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
But definitely, I highly recommend if you're in Winnipeg, if you're in Saskatoon, and what other markets are you doing?
I'll be playing Victoria. Well, we'll leave Victoria out of it because
Okay,
it's like a private sort of thing.
okay,
I'm doing the Sunshine Coast, so
okay.
Roberts Creek
Nice.
and Powell River.
Dope.
I have a feeling I'm doing something in Vancouver, but uh, it's I'm unsure what yet. But I will be
Okay.
playing Vancouver,
Nice.
even
Nice.
if I'm setting up in a schoolyard like we used to, or
Right.
you
Yeah. No.
know,
Definitely.
like some picnic tables in a park or something. I'm going to bring
Oh
the sound
yeah.
system out. That's just how I do. So
This is hip
it's,
hop.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I have no idea what, but there will be something in Vancouver, and I'll put it on social media, etc.
Exactly. And for anyone who is in any of those markets, definitely go and check him out. This guy is a phenomenal MC. He's a great entertainer, but he's like a subdued entertainer. Like you know what I'm saying? You're like that subdued guy, but
Yeah.
you still know how to rock that stage and rock that mic.
Yeah.
So it's
Thank you.
definitely a good show worth catching. If you're in Winnipeg, without saying, you really should be there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Appreciate you saying that. And yeah, please come out. It'll be fun. The thing about it is I was like, it's such a, meeting of different things where it's like, performing at a record store. It's like I've done it. I think I played a show at a store here, Sunrise maybe,
okay.
or Rotate. I did something. I did an in store. Yeah, Sunrise Records. It's the same kind of thing, right? It's like I love it.
Hell yeah, we need to bring in stores back.
100%. I
if the
mean,
stores are
I know
there.
people are doing them. You know who does them? I
Yeah.
think a lot of people do beat sets at stores.
Yes.
And I've
That's
seen
definitely
that.
the wave. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna, but I think I want to play more in stores.
I think that would be dope.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just used to be such a regular thing.
100%. Yeah,
You know what I
man.
mean? And then, marketing went the way that it went, and then the internet
Yeah,
came. So whatever.
yeah. People
But
get scared. They get scared. They're afraid of
yeah,
being in store. It's too. Somebody could walk up and start talking to you. You know, it's like not like you have a big stage and you're, you know,
yeah.
one of those things, right?
That kind of intimacy, though.
Hmm.
That kind of intimacy, you can't duplicate that kind of intimacy.
Yeah, people need. People. I think people appreciate it. They're like, wow, I can. It's like a coffee shop or
Yep.
whatever it is. It's
Yep.
amazing. Yeah.
Definitely. All right, man. Well, respect to you.
Respect to
Salute.
you.
Oh man, nah. This guy, I can say a million good things about you, but at the end of the day, if people are aware, if you know, you don't need me to throw the platitudes at you because people already feel that way about you anyway.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that.
For real. Friday, Into the Music, 7 p.m. if you're in Winnipeg. Make sure you catch that. Saskatoon, Vancouver, Sunshine Coast. Make sure you catch those shows if you're out in those markets.
Yeah.
Bird, thank you once again. We'll definitely get you back in the lounge space to talk about the new record.
Yeah. 100%. And
But
that's in the coming months for sure.
exactly. But until Friday, man, I'll see you Friday.
All right. I'll see you Friday.
Respect you, homie.
Respect to you.
Peace.
Peace.